One. Hey everybody, Brian here from quantlabs.net. Welcome to our DY approach of trading. We got online Steve, who's gone through the process. The whole idea is to have Steve tell his story so everyone can connect with him. Steve, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good.
That's good to know.
Well, I guess you want me to
Yeah, why don't you
talk
give
for a couple minutes here?
Yeah, why don't you give us the background so everybody knows who you are, your story, how many coders you went through, all the investment.
All right, it'll be a ways back. It's like 10 years story.
No worries.
But I'll zip through it. Don't worry. So years and years ago, there was a thing on late night TV show, Forex Made Easy. 4 arrows up, buy, 4 arrows down, sell. And each arrow was set to a different time frame, minute, or I think there were seconds were available. You had to buy a data service and so on and so forth. Anyway, bottom line, the software was just a 23, 27 EMA crossover, nothing very exciting or anything. The idea being that when the lines opened up, that was, the alligator's mouth opens, you're supposed to get in. But what it a lot of times meant is you're in the middle of the range, and they just kind of let you out there, and it could just go back against you just about as much as it would go for you. It was just not the greatest system. So then I got together with some people, and we formed a trading team. One guy was better, and we made him the trader, and we were doing pretty good. But what happened is that we had people that would go and bother him after the trading was supposed to be closed, but because they saw the investor side, they didn't realize that they were closed. It looks like the trades are open. So they call him, and there's a little bit of a lesson in this little point, is that you've got the trader, and then everybody has direct contact to the trader or the person driving the system. Then they're going to dump their stress in, and that's why he left the trading deal. So we lost him, but it was a good lesson. When you're working with investors, you want to keep them happy. Smaller investors are more nervous than bigger investors. And so, anyway, I digress, I guess. So then I started to work on my own program. I started watering the lawn one day, and I put my thumb on the water, and then I got the big water, and I got all these little drops coming out. And I know that other people thought of it, parallel or before, but I kind of came up with the idea of grid trading. And so I started with grid trading, and that was kind of had some good stuff, but you usually had a really big drawdown before you got to the good stuff, 20, 30, and sometimes 80%, but it was just too much risk to really trade. Although a friend of mine traded, and I think he lost 10,000 or something, and his wife was upset, and he's moved away and lost touch. So there was some risk there. And so I kind of went on, and I wasn't a programmer at all at this point, but I started to learn programming and to get programmers to come in and help me with stuff. But it was a lot of challenges, a lot of loops that didn't quite finish. So it was a lot of wasted time and effort. And over the years, I probably sent my NDA to maybe 100 programmers. Some of them just would take it, look at the documentation and stuff, and then they're gone. So probably worked actively with 30. And what I found is if you just take the idea and you tell them about it and you hand it off and they go off and do it and they come back, it doesn't very often come back like you think you told them. There's like a communication breakdown. So over time, one of the takeaways with my wife being a project manager, and she's seen me go through this, she's told me about agile project management, which is the only way to go, in my opinion. Having done the other way, it didn't work. Wasted a lot of time. I mean, you can still have trouble, but it's a lot quicker. And agile is you take one thing and work on it, and then get it done and put it away, and then you do the next thing. Whereas what doesn't work is, oh, I just did these 5 functions. I got the new version. Here you go. Test it out and tell me what you think. It's like, tell you what you think. What am I supposed to be looking for? I don't know what the person's done and stuff. It's really hard to figure out what you need to test. And so one of the things that I did when I do my code, which is not the most fantastic thing, is I usually make it so that I could put a true, false, 1, 0 on it, so that function or that piece goes or doesn't go. So time goes on, work with it, many people, many versions, has different names. We go on, and a lot of troubles with programmers. It seems that a lot of times they go bright shiny thing, and then they lose trajectory, and that's a common problem. And part of my thinking is that the people that I'm looking are working with, for the most part, are what I call free range programmers. They don't work at a company or anything. They're more free range. I'm free range, so I understand, but sometimes it doesn't quite work out. And so currently, I guess a lot of programmers, a lot of the same story over and over. So we're almost up to current time, where I'm setting up a team of traders, more like monitors, to watch my system. The system's not completely done, but it's enough that with human oversight we can manage it, and the tools are inside the code. And in fact, I'm going to be teaching my 82-year-old mother. Tomorrow's her birthday. She'll be 82 tomorrow. So she's going to be one of our people. And the way we do it is we layer people all the way around the clock. So there's always 3 people assigned to each hour. And so each shift lasts for 3 hours and overlaps. And then we all meet on Skype. And that way you have someone to talk to. I don't know if this group isn't so much manual traders, but being trading and sitting there can be pretty daunting. Or if you get into trouble, you just feel so alone, and otherwise it's just like being in a cave a lot. So nice to have people on, and that's why I'm bringing people in, and we're doing it kind of as a cooperative effort. So anyway, I think that's the short story from beginning to end. I guess if people have questions, I can answer them.
Well, I know M had a question regarding what is Google. You might want to explain your definition of it, as well as
what is Google?
No, sorry, Agile. I'm sorry about
that. Agile is a type of project management. Now, the old-fashioned one is waterfall, and that's where you take all your criteria that you want to get into the software, and you figure that all out first. And that's an okay methodology if you're doing something like building a house, where you put in the foundation, you put in the wood, you put in the plumbing and electric, and you put on the walls and the roof, and you have a set plan that you're going through. But in software like this, development of a trading system, you don't really know where you're going, exactly at every moment. So to try to figure out exactly where you're going is kind of a waste of time. And you're better off to just figure out what's the next piece I need, what's the most important piece, then go work on it. and then get it done, which means that it's fully complete, as opposed to the code is written, the code's done, but it's not tested, it's not done. I'm not sure if that answers.
I think, just to drill it down more, from my experiences talking to you, I mean, you over a 10-year process. I remember the number of programmers you went through was quite a lot,
Yes.
and you still didn't go anywhere. So I'm assuming you must have spent quite an exorbitant amount of money out of your own pocket to try to make an attempt to get it to a certain point where you can actually work from it or work with it.
Yes. There was a lot of money spent, a lot of time spent, a lot of effort, and I was frustrated a lot. So,
Yeah, I remember.
I mean, but the main thing is you got to persevere. If you give up, then you gave up. And then even if you were an inch away, you're done.
Yeah.
If I had thought that my idea didn't have the legs that I think it does, then I wouldn't have put up with this much pain, I guess. But it'll be satisfying when we get there.
So I guess the other point is that because now you've taken matters in your own hands, and you are learning how to code yourself. I mean, do you find that that's more beneficial in the long run for you?
Well, the one thing I don't want to do is trade my own black box. It's my system, my thing, but if I don't understand it, and I should because I designed it, if I can't understand it, I don't know if that makes sense, but I have to understand it. Because it's my name, my reputation. It's, if it works, I get the benefit. If it doesn't work, it's not good for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not suicide, but it's not happy days for sure.
Right, and it all comes back to that, because if you're not ready to take on that sort of risk to get a system written, trade live money with it, as I said earlier, if something blows up on it and you're relying on other coders to get the fix in, you could be out of commission for a while until they fix it, let alone if they can fix it.
Yes. Yeah, I would still want to have people on the team that understand it.
Right.
All kinds of layers of redundancy. The more redundant, anything that could be a risk I can do, the better.
Another question came in from Joe. How did you gain initial confidence your system was worth the continued investment?
Kind of comes down to how I got the idea. So I was working on the grids in the daytime and fiddling with them and trying different configurations. But then I would go to sleep and I would purposely ask myself, specific questions, and then just accept that as I went to sleep, I would wake up and maybe have the answer, but at least I could go to sleep, because otherwise I'd be bugging myself. So then I woke up this one morning and it's like, you can't lose. I was like, what? And then like a dream, it just kind of fogged away, and it's like, but I dreamed it over and over and over again, and it became more and more clear. And it also kind of influences me to want to make this system provide good back to the world. It's kind of a metaphysical thing for me. I don't know what. It's like something was given to me by some force. And I don't want to get all spiritual or anything, but because of that general sense, I want to make sure that we use this and become good people as we do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of that. I know people that have mirror accounts for their own trading. They want to succeed, but if they mirror it, they can have good conscience that they can duplicate their profits and give back, having that kind of on their conscience. So that's nothing unusual there. Once I get to a certain point, I'll definitely be doing that. Joe asked about the track record to date. I mean, you really have you done any human trading with this type of strategy that you've got?
just on my own, doing demo testing, where I actually go to sleep and it's unmonitored. I know that there are some issues with it, and if it were monitored, that's why we're bringing in the monitors. It can have its bad days and fails, but if it was monitored, it'd be pretty good. But in most times when I can do it, I get between 3 and 5% per day, and sometimes it works like a champ. But it's more. There's some known bugs that if I get those taken care of, it'll be a lot more reliable. One of the things is at a certain point it sets a lot of stop losses and take profits, and then the basket of trades will close. But sometimes it gets into a situation where that basket closes before the target that it really needs to hit is, so it pulls itself out of service. It's like sabotage almost, but it's a bug. But if we get that fixed, that should help. And with humans, and I'm figuring we should be able to make 1% every 6-hour period, so 4% a day. And then we're going to do a second account that we're going to dial it way back, and probably start on Thursday nights where it's a busy market, and shoot for 2.5%. If we get it that night, we just quit and go back to the trader's account, which is aggressively traded. So.
Yeah, and just so people know, how far along are you with the system right now before it goes live? I believe you wanted to get it up and running by November or January.
Yes. Yeah. Well, right now the code is good enough, although it has some issues. And if the more of those issues I can fix, the less the humans would have to do. And one of the issues in front of me right now is I have a cycle process. So I get a bunch of trades, and then on the next cycle, when I close a cycle, it's wiping off all the trades, and then I have some grid stuff in it, and it just puts the grids back down. So I take off trades and put them back on. And the brokers don't like that. So it's not really a logic issue. It's more of a housekeeping issue, I would say. So.
Maru asks, did you find MetaTrader a decent platform?
It's a love-hate relationship. It's a love. I looked at a lot of different things because that was like MetaTrader 3. And so at that time I went to AmiBroker. And then I got this guy out of Russia, Vladimir Gliznitsa, and he was able to connect the two together so I could be on AmiBroker, but be driving MetaTrader and getting the prices across. Amazing piece of code. I was really impressed. $300 to do that. I mean, wow. And then MetaTrader 4 came out right after that. So, but I gotta say that was one programming experience that was actually pretty good. I speak highly of it.
And then James asks, because when you talk about improvement, how do you measure improvement?
Well, just basic function, and of course drawdown and profit. You want to drawdown's the most important thing, and that kind of varies between what type of a trader or investor you are. So if you give me $1,000 and you say, oh, go trade it, and I tell you I'm 20% down, I'm $200 down. $200? You're not scared, no problem. Okay, I've got this other guy, he gives me $100 million. And I tell him, oh, well, we've had a little trouble. We're down 20%. 20%? $20 million. Yeah, that is a little problem. Oh, we'll make it back. We're going to double down. Don't worry. Yeah, no. You never want to get that deep into the equity on the larger money. So watch your drawdown first, and to a certain degree, your equity will take care of itself. But our goal is to get less than 5% drawdown on the investor account.
I guess M wanted to see if you had a demo for tonight or anything. I guess we're obviously not going to be doing that for sure.
Nah.
Because we're not here to show the system. Joe asked, he's got I'm using...
I can answer.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'll do my best to answer most questions of it.
Yeah.
There is some feeling that after you work so long on it, that there's some value in it. You know, even if there is or isn't, but you know, I feel there is. Of course, it's fine. But there's something about that. You have to share it wisely, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean.
Joe says he's using, I think it's a typo, using CAILG, Cialgo? Oh, Cialgo, right. With more hate than love, okay. Then M came back, what is the most loved platform right now?
Well, I'm doing MetaTrader. I'm invested in it. They recently went from C to C++ with no warning, which meant that was like maybe a year ago or two, which means I had to recode it all, which was and that was another problem. You hand off from programmer to programmer. Oh, I want to start over. Oh, I can't work in someone else's code, and the better programmers can work in someone else's code, but everybody has their own personality and stuff. It seems the way they lay the lines down and how they process a logic stuff.
So I guess let me just make sure. Joe asked, interested in the matrix, you keep mentioning how you use it.
The matrix?
Yeah, because
you mean the grids?
Yeah, I think that's what he meant. Yeah,
that's probably the grids. Well, if you have grids, that's where in general you go until you hit the take profit, then you have an order open price, then you go to a take profit, and then you have an order open price. And in general, buy stop and sell stop type of setups are good for a breakout. If you're in range, you want to use buy limits and sell limits. Go out to the outside edge, grab them, come back in. And you also want to have shorter take profits in the range area. And you want to have longer take profits. And then if you can, stop block that trade and then trail it so that that trade now is not in the main calculation for risk because it's not a risk trade. The ones that can lose are your risk trades. So in a way, I can take some of my risk. I mean, it's still a trade, but it's in profit, and the stop loss will keep it from going into a loss. So I can ignore it and then deal with everything that's left. And in a way, and by doing that, I can pyramid into profitable areas. So I hope that helps.
Sam asked another question. I think it's his first question. Do you have a trading strategy? And so how long do you hold the position for, minutes, hours, days?
In a busy market, not very long. I mean, if I'm going for a 0.5%, it may take half hour, 45 minutes.
Not bad.
You know, if it really zings, it could take, seconds, but not usually. But you know, if the market's really zooming, I could run through cycles pretty fast. But in the slow times, it takes much longer. But in general, it's nothing long term.
Because Moru asks, he used MetaTrader. It was painful in terms of true back testing.
Agreed. I don't even consider. I forward test, and the problem with forward test is you're eating up time. It is painful, but the back test is, I'll still do it for quick and dirty, but nothing serious. I mean, it doesn't hold the same weight to me, but depending on what you're testing, you put something, is this line going to show up? Well, then you run it and you can see it did or it didn't. But one thing, and when I do the back test, I can't hit my buttons. I have some buttons on the screen that I use to trigger different functions, so I lose my ability to drive in back test, so it's not quite as good a back test for me. There probably is a way that I could pop that out so they might if you push it on the screen that the back test would hear it, but I don't MetaTrader 4 incorporated some MetaTrader 5 things, and one of it is more basic functions in the start. You used to have start init and dinit, and you have those now, but they also have on tick and on tester and on tick. There was something else, on timer. So one would go off every so often, and one would go off if you got a tick, and the other would go on if you were running a back test. I got to tell you, I'm not the best programmer, so I vaguely know that that's where I need to look to fix that, but I don't have a fix for it.
But I mean, with your experience from where you are now versus hiring programmers, I mean, from as you said earlier, that you don't have any programming experience. I mean, is there a message you could send everybody on that, on your experience?
Well, programming is difficult. It's logical. In that way, it's easy for me. But the code, the part that's difficult for me is the commas and all the details. I know what I want to do, so sometimes I'm stuck. Like how do I connect into the structure of the array type area and get to the point where I want and be able to pull or push the data? That's where I'm just a little bit weak. But because I'm measuring so much of the data of the price information and the trade information, I need to use some kind of a array. So I need it, but I don't quite have the muscles to push it around, is what I guess I'd say.
Well, where you're at now, I mean, based upon going through the days of hiring coders versus where you're at now, when you had to do it all over again, which path would you take?
Probably would have been better to just bite the bullet from the very beginning and learn to program, go to school, get a book, just do whatever.
Yeah.
That is probably, took me a while to come around to it, and I kept coming around to it, and then someone would come to help me out, and then it wasn't really help, and then someone would come to help me out. It was like a lifeline that wasn't a lifeline. It was kind of like a Snoopy commercial where they pull the ball away.
So when you started out first developing, what was the biggest challenge that you hit? From zero knowledge, I guess, by the sounds of it, or pretty close.
Well, at first you don't really know how to trade or what there's just basic trading stuff, and I guess I had that pretty well, pretty quick. But then if you look around, there's so many systems, moving average 1, crossover moving average 2, artificial intelligence over here, and AbleSys has their little set of indicators, and there's hundreds and hundreds of different things. And so I would recommend someone starting out at this, go and watch as many advertisements as you can, not to buy the stuff, but to get an idea of what their point of view is, their angle, their logic. And then as you find one that kind of speaks to you, then put it into your toolbox, and then find another one, an indicator that works for you. For me, like the MACD type indicator that's down below, it doesn't really do anything for me because I want price action. So if I have an indicator, it's got to put a line on the chart. So it's got to determine that that's where it is. And you also have to determine what type of a trader or investor are you. If you don't have any time to sit there for 8 hours a day because you got a day job, then you got to figure out a way that works with your day job. And if you're impatient and OCD, like some people might be, then you want to do something that's pretty active trading. Like for me, I can't stand to take a position and then wait for 3 weeks because it's going to be a 3-week position. I can't sleep that well. I want the action, and I want it kind of done. But everybody has to figure out who they are as a trader. It's almost like a psychology experiment. So everybody say, oh, the only way to trade is blah blah blah. no, there's 100 ways to trade. And if there's 100 people, there's probably 200 ways. If you ask those 100 people, each got 2 different ways. So find something that fits you.
I guess James asked a really good question. What advice do you have for others building their own systems?
It depends on what your concept is. And you have to be able to determine if it has potential for success or if it just needs to be tuned, or what is your point of view and how does it serve your trading? There's some people that just trade non-farm payroll or some news event. Is that a good way to do it? Some people do it. It's not my way, but some people are able to get the news and be able to jump on it or run from it or whatever they do and make good money. Fundamentals, they don't really do it for me, but you might want to include fundamentals. Some people are doing like Facebook scraping so that they can see information about, I don't know, whatever they're trying to trade. Is there good or bad information or consensus out there so that they can adjust it? I'm not sure I answered the question very well.
I think so.
Okay.
Joe,
ask again if not.
Yeah, I'm gonna unmute Joe. Get ready, Joe. He says he's got something he may want to present. Hang on, Joe. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Joe, you're unmuted. Okay, we can wait on Joe. He asked he had a comment before that, so let's address that. He said he had to code. It's back to the back testing. He had to code his own back test in MetaTrader, but MetaTrader has better support for running multiple instances on the same computer without conflict. C algo is great for programming in C#, but poor support for multiple account on same computer. You out there, Joe? Still? He's just trying out his mic. Anybody else got any questions for Steve? Just waiting on you, Joe. Mic seems down. No problem, Joe. Anybody else got any questions for Steve? I mean, if you were to rate your level of frustration, like out of 10, would it be?
What's that?
It'd be pretty high, eh?
At times.
Yeah.
And part of this has been, I really want to just grab on this like a bulldog or a pit bull, but I've learned sometimes you have to let go, relax a little bit, and go away.
Yeah.
You can't just beat your head against the wall continuously. Sometimes I got to go stop for a while and recharge, because it takes a lot of energy to pull all the ideas and you're trying to work with a programmer, you're trying to get the idea across to them, you're trying to figure out how they're going to work, what's going to work best for them, short pieces, visual pieces, me talking about it over and over, it's like, and it just takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So, but also if I wanted to just start programming, that would have taken, I did. I started and pushed 6, 7, 8 times. It was probably the 10th or 12th time that I finally got, stuff that would compile. Now I can compile stuff pretty well. If you left out a semicolon, semicolon at the end of the line, oh my God. I now I'm pretty good at all that kind of stuff, the basic little stuff. But it was hard at first.
Yeah.
And then you can't move and you don't know what it is. And you don't know where to ask, and MetaTrader isn't very good at saying, "Oh, you left off the semicolon. Would you like me to put that on there for you?" No,
yeah.
It just doesn't do that.
We got a couple more questions that came in. Moru said, "How many people are now involved with you?"
I think I'm getting close to 20.
And Saeed, sorry man, have you ever tried backtesting with NinjaTrader?
I had a acquaintance that was using NinjaTrader for trading, and I looked into it, and the feedback I had at that time from people I was talking to is that it's finicky, and you get it set up and it's not really stable. I hope that's not true at this time, but the idea of just popping up another, and going from MetaTrader to this other one that has something that somebody says is finicky is like, better the pain that you know than new pain. So I had a little experience, but nothing substantial.
And then I guess this could be similar. What software has helped develop your system? I guess the process of the development itself.
Software. Well, one of the tools I use is XMind, which is mind mapping, which is a way to kind of lay out, like to do a mind dump, all these little details and so on and so forth, and put it into a mind map. That has been helpful. GoToMeeting, Skype has been helpful. Just the internet is helpful. Being able to research, some code or code issue or different things. Being able to connect with people. And I have gotten some of the software that's made to write code, and you drag and drop it and so on and so forth. The problem is that the stuff I'm working on is beyond that. If they could manage the databases and I could drag and drop that would be delightful. But I haven't seen that in any of the auto make a code programs. So.
I think you've already answered Matt's question. What tools have you found useful? You've already answered that. I guess James has got another question. What was the biggest cost, time sink in building your system?
Well, I lost money in programming and stuff like that. One guy wrote like 10 templates, and we ended up in court, and it was $3,000. And I didn't see the templates until after the court case, and I was like, "Oh, give me a break." I mean, I didn't think the guy had anything, so I said, "Oh, But there was a bit in the contract that said he owned the software until I paid for it. Well, I didn't want it, but the judge said, "Go get it and pay for it." So anyway, so that was kind of expensive, and that's happened to some form several times. Not legal, but people took the money and ran off. That's real. The thing is that you have to deal with the money being lost, the trust being lost, and as a human being, I get knocked out of balance, and that's why sometimes you got to take a break and kind of get your head together. And then I've lost money in the market testing, and one time it was a brokerage that was on its way out, and I just couldn't get my trades. I knew what I had to do to do my system and stuff, but I couldn't get it in fast enough. It was taking like 2 or 3 minutes to put in one trade, and my system needs to put in a lot. And I was doing it manually at that time, so it's partly why I pushed more towards automation. So I'd say, I hope that answers. I kind of rambled a bit.
No, that's good. That's good. Adam asked, he's tried his own coding platform, but keep getting stuck at implementing the fixed protocol to talk to the broker server. Can you recommend a source of info to understand what the different codes and messages mean? You want to try? Go ahead, Steve.
Well, this is like me jumping into MetaTrader. I don't know what I'm doing, but I would say, okay, you get a message, you write that down, you put it into a Google or a Bing or however you search, and track it down. Alternatively, you might find someone that has the expertise or some documentation, although I've heard some of the fixed documentation is challenging, probably similar to MetaTrader.
Site says I got the name right. Thanks, man. Sam says, have you used or heard anything of Wealth Lab for back testing?
I think I've heard of it, but I haven't dug into it. I think it's mostly for stocks, but that may or may not be correct.
M asks, this might be a good question for you. What programming language has the best support for building your own trading system? C#, Python, others? What do you think, Steve?
Best support.
It's more about the libraries than the language.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
This is Joe. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. I'm like a barely technical able person. So some of the other people in this group definitely have more input on this type of question.
I mean, from my perspective, I really like my MATLAB, but if you want better and the free option, definitely C# and Python really good for community support for both libraries and for actual questions and whatnot. So those are really two good communities.
And meetups, I mean, there's local meetups here for Python and C++ and other coding stuff. R is run, there's a group, but depending on where your local area is, look at meetup.com and see if there's anything. When you're doing this kind of stuff, it's really nice to have somebody to commiserate with or work with, or that can hang with you a little bit. Otherwise, you're just off in the salt mines all by yourself.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I mean, that's maybe why a lot of us are even here, just to kind of get some human stuff.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to promote. Matt said R and Python are good for what was asked earlier. And then Maru said he needs a good IDE, integrated development environment, which is, I think that's critical. What you say, Steve?
I would like more than what I have.
Yeah.
I'd like it. I wish it were easier, and I bet you in 5 years, what I did would be so easy to do. Someone might be able to do it in, an hour or a day or some short amount of time, and do it just as good as what I did.
Yeah. And Matt came back with, for Python IDE, is PyCharm, which I haven't looked at yet, but I've looked at some of the JetBrains stuff. It's pretty good. I think Joe's. It sounds like you're ready if you want to do a demo.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to share the screen.
Oh, that's my job. If you just let me know when you're ready, and I can hand you over to the screen and make you a presenter.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, but you're ready. You're in.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, hang on.
He's ready.
Let me just see where.
We could ask people that have been developing what issues they've had too, because.
Well, why don't we?
If someone has a whole lot more technical skill, they may say, "Well, the trouble is with those system designers because they never know really what they're doing." And, there's probably some truth to that.
Yeah, I'm just looking for my options right now. It looks like I can't find them. They've really changed this. Go to hang on here. Here we go. Okay, I think I might have. Okay, hang on, Joe. Okay,
Go to
Joe.
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you presenter, Joe. Hang on, you just gotta click yes, or you'll be accepting it.
Looks like it's going.
Yeah, here it is. You just gotta accept that input, Joe, and then we'll be able to see your
I
screen.
did accept it. It says on air showing screen.
There we go. Yeah, we can see it.
Here it came.
All right, I'm going to see if I can get rid of this chat window a little bit. So I come from almost the opposite end of it. I'm a guru computer guy who consults for big companies most of the time, and typically don't take small projects like you described because my clients can't afford to pay my rate. The small clients can't afford to pay my rate. I started into the trading side of things saying, well, I've got technical skills, and I don't want to have to program by the hour for the rest of my life. So I will reapply those. But the experience you described is very typical of people trying to get software written with minimal budgets. I even run into it when I try to outsource some of the development work. I came at it from a little bit different direction than you. I spent the first 4 years writing stuff to do what I would call human-assisted trading.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to the conclusion that I didn't like having to sit at the screen and watch it. For me, I could spend 25 hours coding with less to make an automated trade decision a little bit better, mm-hmm. with less stress than pressing the go button once.
That's important too, because that's the when you have live money, that's real stress.
It is. Now, I'm willing to risk live money. I just don't like to have to make the decision every time.
Well, you want to make the decision before you have to make the decision. So I think where you're headed is you're going to have the computer pre-decide, and you're going to cut the humans out.
Exactly. So about 4 years ago, I switched over to that strategy, and what I'm showing you here is actually what I call a micro strategy. It's only about 10,000 lines of code, and it doesn't do all of the machine learning and AI predictive analytics and stuff that the big strategies do, but I built it to test a concept. So in the Forex world, one of the things you hear people talk about a lot is that once you've got a manifest direction in trade, kind of like from here to here, that momentum is more likely to continue in that direction than it is to reverse at any one point. Now, what I found in testing that was that assertion wasn't necessarily true, but I wrote this software to try and test some varieties of those conclusions and then turn it loose and let it trade for a while. And you'll see that it's trading very small amounts of money. Mm-hmm. And I do that intentionally because I like to be able to go in and play and tweak with it. So in the broker I chose, and the reason I chose this particular broker is I can have a macro account that has $50,000 in it, and I can divide that up and make a sub account where all I'm risking is a few hundred until I'm sure that the software is doing what it wants to do.
But you're testing on live money and getting real results, not hypothetical results.
Right, and I agree with you on the hypothetical results, although I will say that I extensively backtest because that's how I set parameters. So what this software is showing you here is actually live trades that it decided to make. I got busy this summer, so I turned it on in March and basically just ignored it because I was busy out doing consulting work. And so these are the trades that it decided to make during the time based on the criteria that we had set when we established this particular set of parameters for it. And you'll see that it did really well for the most recent period of time up until the last few days, and it got 3 losing trades here as the euro US dollar has been dropping, and you can actually see where it made the wrong decision. You'll see where it saw something that it thought was a confirmed trend, so it bought in, and this trend reversed and dropped below its stop limit, and stopped it out right there. And that's one of the interesting things about the algorithms is how you tune those little settings can have a significant effect on the total production of the system. Mm-hmm. So this system, over 4 months of trading after paying all commissions, is up a little bit. It certainly hasn't made 2% per day, but I also haven't been doing what I'm supposed to feed and maintain it. The way these things are designed to work is, so we wrote the software, and the software is configured to look at a set of parameters where it's saying, look at a short EMA of 9 and a long EMA of 40, and look for certain types of trends that are reinforcing, where you say if it's up on the 30-minute and it's up over a 90-minute period and it's up over the 2-day period, then you got a better probability of actually continuing upwards than it is going to turn back around and reverse and go down.
And you weight the longer term heavier than the shorter term.
Well, that's where the magic comes in. So, and that's where the back testing stuff is interesting, because it allows you to go back and let's tell it to back test across. Let's go a little bit earlier, or else it'll take too long to run for this audience. Let's go from the middle of August, and this is so it's going out, it's grabbing the data, and then it's going to apply the algorithm as it's currently configured to make its trading decisions. It'll take just a little bit longer to load the first time in this process. This is the one area where I will say Sealgo is a little bit superior to MetaTrader.
Yes.
In reality, I don't like either one of their back tests. I find them like 3 orders of magnitude too slow, and generally write extract utilities that extract the data at the tick level and save it in CSV files so that I can come back and run my own back tests outside their platform with a similar algorithm. You know, I think the reason this is taking so long to load is because I'm running this screen share and talking.
It takes up bandwidth.
Right, but it's almost there. So when this gets loaded, it's going to come through and it's going to show you how it traded on these configurations. And then we can come through and we can say, well, let's change it so that it looks at like a 60 period EMA instead of a 40. And so we can come over here and let's actually, these are the trades it made in an emulation environment for backtesting based on these configurations. So if we come back over and say, I'll have to turn it off live, which is the first time it's been, to make this change, it's the first time it's been turned off in months. Let's change this to an 80. Now, if we look at the trade statistics, you'll see that it made 71 trades with 36 winning trades.
Are the winners and losers equal size?
No, it will. It'll show you what your largest and smallest winning were. If you want to get the additional detail, you almost need to look at the individual trades. Mm-hmm. So you'll see a lot of the wins were some of the wins were smaller. We got a few that are much larger than the losses, and then the losses are essentially set here, and they're capped by a parameter down here where we essentially are configuring a trailing stop. So this stuff is set up so that once it buys in, and it waits till you make a certain amount of money, and then it slides the window up, and then as you make more money, it actually shrinks the window. But the maximum that's going to be allowed to lose is essentially 7/10 of a pip there.
One full pip.
Yeah. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Just short of 1 full pip. And that's one nice thing about this particular broker is they actually do give me pretty good data at the sub-pip level. So we looked at this and we saw it made essentially over 71 trades. It made all $60. So we're going to change this configuration here, which was the 80-day EMA. Let's rerun that back test.
Your starting capital was 1,000, so you made 6% over what period of time? Like
that one was essentially 2 months. So I'm not telling you this software is performing the way I want it. But what it is doing is it's trading without minute-to-minute guidance, and it's essentially making a little bit of money while it's covering its costs. So we have to make it a little bit better.
But even 3%, if it's consistent, if you say it's 2 months, you did 6, if you get 3, and if it's consistent and the drawdown's minimal, this is still a marketable system.
Yeah, except for I'm a lot better at engineering than I am at marketing. So you'll notice that when we changed this thing for the long EMA period, we essentially lost money during that same period of time, and it only made 45 trades. So if we come back here, let's tweak another parameter. So normally, when it makes an order, it's only allowed to keep the order open for a certain period of time, because one of the things I found was that if it doesn't execute within that given time when it believes the conditions are correct, that it's a market that's very likely to reverse on you. It's more likely to reverse on you.
Your logic as opposed to my logic. Not that it's wrong, because everything's holistic, but in my way, I wouldn't want to close a trade until my basket's in profit. And then if it's a winner or loser, I don't care, as long as my basket of trades is okay. So
this is looking at it. This is part of a larger system that's managing a basket.
Okay, I'm just piping in. And you have to know the holistic total of your system. Something that helps me a lot may destroy your system, and vice versa. Something.
So I'll go a step further and say something that helps this set of parameters that work together synergistically would destroy another system that's using just a slightly different set of parameters.
Correct. Yeah.
So when I gave this to my uncle and a few other people to trade with, and what they found was very, very different settings that they ended up comfortable with. So you'll see that
I would assume much technical knowledge. They just put this stuff and something they like.
Right, and so they use this back test. Now you notice that I told it to leave. I changed it back to 40, but I told it to leave the order open for 1.2 minutes from the time it's placed. And we'll see it produces a very different trading behavior, just that change.
Still losing, but
it's still losing. And the reason is and to be fair, all of these things tend to work together in a synergistic way, and so when you change one parameter, you have to change them a little bit at a time.
Oh yeah, so you can know where you are, so you know where you're going. If you go too fast on 12 different parameters, where are you? If it's good, then what?
It's like tuning a car engine. If you change the carburetor at the same time you change the fuel pump, which one helped?
And you're putting on limit orders.
Yes, so, this trades exclusively limits.
So you're trading back to the mean, to the center. You're trying to catch an outside edge and then come back in with your, and then you only give it so much time. And if it doesn't get tagged and start heading back, you let it die. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So so to be clear though, once it opens a position, it might hold that position for 2 minutes, or it might hold that position for 5 days, as long as it essentially looks for a set of criteria down here, where it's basically saying, okay, stay in the deal until one of these limits gets crossed. And so as long as it keeps trending upward flat, you won't cross the limit and you'll stay in.
Is this like a multi-step stop loss?
Where
you make some profit, then you trail by another, and then it's tighter, or it's looser, and then, like you said, tighter at the end.
Exactly. What we found in testing some of this stuff were very interesting things that were that between certain games you had a high probability of a reversal, but not all that much of a reversal. So you'd end up out of the order with 2 pips profit or 1 pips profit, and so you basically widen that window a little bit. But as it grows, once you go over about 100 pips, you don't want to give a whole lot of that back.
Yeah, and when I get 10, 20 pips, I want to put my stop, what I call stop lock. I want to set a stop loss. That trade, now it's in profit. I don't want to trade to go in profit and then go bad. That just, I don't like that personally, psychologically.
And that's what this thing does. But what you'll see it do, and we had to choose a broker that would let us do this without charging fees out the ears, is this thing, once it sets up here, once you go past your 2.6 pips, it holds that stop limit at 0.22 of the gain. And so if the price goes up just a little bit, it will adjust that stop. It might adjust that stop 75 or 80 times for a position.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the red light, green light game that kids play.
Yes.
As it moves up, and then the trade turns around, you sneak up on it, and it turns around, you stop. But you're always gaining on it if you can make a forward move.
Right. Now, one of the guys that's using this, he starts out with a 20 pip stop limit, and he has much larger numbers here, and he makes more money than I do. He also risks about 100 times more.
There was one system where you're trying to go for 10 pips, but you got a 200 pip stop loss, and you apply this to the 6 major pairs, and most times you're going to hit your 10 pips long before you hit your 200, and that was the basis of that. Kind of flips a lot of logic upside down.
Yeah, he makes money with it, but he also comes in and tunes this parameter list every 3 or 4 days. He'll go back and rerun back tests for the last 2 weeks, and so he's always running on a set of parameters that best fits the current market. For this particular account, I was actually specifically trying to avoid the temptation of change, to see how it would do if it was just set and left.
And if you ran a whole bunch of different parameters on your variables, and then you get like a 3D diagram, what you don't want is the absolute peak of the best profit. You want the average where it's plus or minus close to that going to win you. So you want kind of like a plateau area more than a peak.
Exactly. Let me just show you the code. So somebody asked a question, and I can't see all the questions because I have to scroll the window off.
Yeah, no problem. I can repeat them.
The question about the broker, and this is a broker called Trader's Way, and I've liked their platform support. I've liked their fee support. The only thing I don't really like is the fact that they're offshore, and I'm not sure my money won't disappear.
That's another concern I've faced. Actually, I was offshore and the broker went away, and I had for me a pretty good chunk of money there, and the broker's gone. Skype, they don't answer. Email, they don't answer. Telephone, they don't answer. And they're out of Dubai. I called Dubai and figured out how to do that. And they said, "Oh, we don't give out information about companies. We're very private." It's like, wow.
These guys are probably worse there in Fiji. But so far they've been really
Everybody's
good.
having a great time in the sun, though.
Yeah. So I found a couple of reputable brokers that I can run the system with. The problem is they won't give us these little micro accounts to play with, to test on. And they also want a $75,000 minimum deposit in the account you're live trading. And I'm perfectly willing to do that, but I'm not willing to do it until I've got a lot of trading record on a given strategy.
Yeah, you got to be pretty confident before you commit, because you work for that money, I assume, and that's dear. I mean,
yes,
it's hard to save $75,000. Working a regular job. I mean, you can do it,
but is. I've been somewhat lucky because I've taken stock from people in lieu of fees for software a few times, and and got paid pretty well for those when those companies went to market. But it still hurt. It would still hurt a lot if you lost it. And I lost like $15,000 the first year I was testing with algorithms, which is one of the reasons you see me test much more conservatively nowadays. So I back test the heck out of it, and then I forward test the heck out of it, and only then do I risk meaningful money.
I call it Mistress Forex. She'll repeatedly spank you until you get the learning. She's very good.
Absolutely. So if you're interested here, the code for this.
I just kind of interested what it looks like a little bit, not the secret stuff. But.
Actually, you believe it or not, these are what I call micro-strategies. I don't share my good stuff publicly, but these I've actually made available. There's people that I've become convinced can use it with some logical restraint and won't blame me if they go bankrupt.
Oh yeah.
Are out there, and they basically just pay me like 5% of whatever they make, and then if they can convince me they'll make more, I'll put in enhancements for them. Then you'll see this is where we set up all the parameters that you're seeing over in the screen that we were changing over here. Let's see, where did they go? Oh, let's see, it collapsed it on us. But all of those parameters I was setting, here's where I defined them and set up the basic values for them. This software is called C-Algo. I can't say I love it, can't say I hate it, but it was a little bit faster to get up and going than it was going to be for me to get this, which I still consider a toy strategy, into where I could live test it to see if there was if live testing in the market could validate or invalidate the blog article I read about that approach. And so this is where you end up creating variables. So in this instance, in this syntax, I'm creating a exponential moving average called a limit price EMA. And that basically reserves the memory for using it. You'll see I've created some other variables for it. And then when the software starts up, it essentially reads the parameters that you had set up over there, and it goes through and essentially initializes the different price points we're going to use, or the different indicators we're going to use in this area. And there's some housekeeping junk here. And so this is one of the methods where it's coming through and saying, this particular strategy follows a gauntlet pattern. So essentially, all of the rules to allow it to trade have to be true in order to before it will initiate a position. Some of my other strategies use a probabilistic entry strategy, which basically measures the probability of a win, combines them together, and if the combined probability is great enough, it'll make the trade. But in this instance, it's essentially coming through and just checking all of the locations where it could have made decisions, and it's exiting if it didn't find if it didn't find a position that it wanted to position.
Anyone failed, knocks it out, doesn't hit to the bottom.
That's right. So that's the gauntlet. Just like the round tables with the knights. If any one of them sticks you, you're gone.
Yeah.
And so it comes down through here. You'll notice one of the things I had a hard time doing at first was getting people to understand the decisions the system was making. And so all of this diagnostic stuff here is essentially it telling them why it didn't trade or why it did trade.
It pops up some message to the user.
Right, and the downside of this is when all these logs are turned on, it'll generate about 5 megabytes an hour worth of logs. And I know obviously you never go off and read all of that over periods of time, but if somebody complains, they send me their settings, I run it, and then we look at it and say, that's where it did it wrong, that's not what I told it to do, and then I come in and figure out, I use these logs to show them, well, this is why, and how they would change the configuration for it. So we've gone all the way over to this check open, and now you're getting down here where we're basically doing calculations to figure out just how far. One of the things that this strategy does, and it's one of the things I found across a lot of technical indicators, is the absolute value of the technical indicators have really very low signal to noise value. But technical indicators as a percentage above or below a different time period of technical indicator seem to have a very large signal to noise ratio, or a relatively larger signal to noise.
Better signal, less noise.
That's right.
Can you say that one more time? Because I want to make sure I get that, because I think it was important.
Yeah, so when we're calculating some of these, you'll notice that we're actually calculating a delta between a short EMA and a longer EMA.
Right. Okay.
Right. And so ultimately, what these things get compared. By the time they get down into the if statement, you're comparing the percentage of difference of the indicator at one time frame compared to the same indicator on a different time frame.
At a different point in time? Are you looking for convergence of the two?
No.
Or?
No, I'm looking for relative ratios. So, for example, if I'm looking at a 10-minute simple moving average,
right,
and I compare that to a 900 minutes simple moving average, the relative position of where the short period is compared to the long period gives you better input on what the market's actually feeling than either one of those two by themselves.
I would want to see the 10-minute a couple bars back currently, and then measure against the 900.
Well, you can do that, but and actually there are some settings where we do that, but the 10-minute is so much more responsive than the 900-minute. That what you're basically seeing there is counter trend movements,
right,
or short-term trend movements relative to the longer-term trend movement, and it won't really give you much benefit to have looked. It won't tell you much different looking 2 bars back.
And are you trying to place your trades between the 10-minute line and the 900 line?
So when we go back to the settings that we were looking at before, those are the things that the users are changing. So they're basically, in those parameters, those are the things where they're basically saying, use this long-term period and use this long-term period, and look for this kind of relationship between the two of them.
But if your market changes, you can have good settings in range, and then all of a sudden it changes, and trends is going to tear you apart. But you've got a lot of pieces in there, so I'm assuming that as trend picks up, more percentage weight is given to that methodology and less is given to the one that's currently losing, and that flows back and forth.
So you're thinking of the other style of engine, the stuff that I don't share for free, or don't share publicly, which is a probabilistic entry engine. This is a gauntlet engine.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so what it's basically, so you could basically say its decision comes down and says, is the 10-minute SMA greater 3% or more above the 60-minute SMA? Is the 60-minute SMA sloped up by at least certain degrees? Is the 5-minute SMA above the 8-minute SMA? And it has to survive all of those parameters that they've specified before it's going to enter. So, and ultimately what you're looking for are confirming signals, right? So one of the reasons you use that very long period as one of those criteria is on certain days you can have a macro downtrend that will have a short period of like an hour upward. And then it will turn back around and go back and drop on you, and it will do it almost every friggin' time.
Yeah, it's just kind of stair-stepping down.
Right.
It's almost like it's someone's foot. They step down, they lift up, they step down, they lift up, they step down. I don't know if that...
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, it's... or somebody's foot if they were walking down a hill.
Yes.
Right? Now, On the converse, on a day when the last 4 hours have been up, and then you get one of those rises, then that's one where you got a much better chance of it continuing up.
Right.
Right? And so that's one of the reasons you would be looking for both the slope of the long period trend up and the slope of the short trend up, and you're looking for the very short indicator to be above the medium indicator, showing that it's actually spiking up. But then you get into this problem of what I'll call the gamed reversals. And so that's one of the reasons we have other parameters basically say calculate what the average price was for the last 4 minutes, and don't buy it at more than 2% above the average, so that you don't have somebody just suckering you in to reverse it in the next 5 ticks.
Don't get a little spike, fake out, break out kind of thing.
Those are just really nasty. For everything you try to do, there's other very bright, nasty people out there trying to take your money away.
You're going up against the smartest people in the world.
Yes.
And probably in this group, they're some of the smartest people in the world. I mean, Mensa-esque type, otherwise you wouldn't like all this stuff. I mean, nitpicky stuff.
I don't claim to be at that level intellectually, but I don't think I'm a dummy either.
No. If it was easy, though, would you want to do it as much? If it was like as hard as programming a tic-tac-toe game, which is maybe tough, but I get the sense well within your skill set to do easily and quickly.
Yeah, 15 years ago I would have said no. I would have wanted the challenge. Nowadays I want to make enough money to retire without having to work another day programming for hours.
You and me love programming the same.
I'm really good at it, right? And big companies pay me as much as they pay any pie for their programmers, but I don't enjoy just doing it that way anymore. So if I'm doing this, I'm only doing it because I think I can get.
And you're doing it for yourself. I think that's a good idea to take your work product that you're able to do, do enough at the company to keep your house going, but do enough of this to get your future going.
Yeah, and then it just becomes a matter of balancing that and family and all the other hobbies and stuff. So this is how this code looks. None of it, to me, is very difficult, but as it comes together, it's a relatively complex synthesis. Now, you mentioned earlier the ON method in MetaTrader. Almost every one of these methods or these tools have something similar, where this is the method that gets called for every bar.
Every new bar, something happens.
Right, and so this is what they in the parlance they call it a callback, and we treat it. But essentially, I wrote this function. It gets called every time there's a new bar. This one gets called every time there's a new tick event, and then we end up calling my method, which is execute trade check, which we were looking at.
That's the gauntlet. That's the gauntlet. Go through the gauntlet and see if you can make it through. Haha, you didn't. Next time.
Right.
Oh, you can't. Now you can trade.
There's actually 2 gauntlets. There's one gauntlet to exit, and there's another gauntlet to enter. This particular code is set up so that it can never take more than one position in one piece of code at a time, or one position in one pair at a time.
That's not to keep. You're offshore, so you don't have to worry about hedging and FIFO and stuff, do you?
Technically, no, but this is really more of a risk management thing. Deal. So when you think about this, you may have the same exact algorithm here with 15 different settings that are running under different conditions. So one of them is looking for much longer trends. One of them is looking for the short 10-minute trend. One of them is looking for the same thing but on USD JPY. What you don't want to do is have all of them lose money simultaneously. So you want to run a as much as you can a non-correlated set.
Right.
For your basket.
Do you do anything with Bollinger Bands in your parameters?
This particular code is not using Bollinger Bands. It could. That's actually an indicator that's built into this Sealgo software, but they're kind of slow to compute. So I just didn't use them. And again, I was trying. I wrote this software to test an idea from a blog that I read about the secondarily confirmed trades with a being able to predict the continued movement based on a double confirmed trend, and it just kind of took on a life of its own and just has kept growing. So
Yeah,
if one of the guys using it comes back and convinces me to add a Bollinger Band, I will.
I believe there's some magic in the if you can capture the upper line, the outer line angle and price coming at some speed, and you know, I can do it as a human trader, but if you could extract that and codify it, there is some at the outside edge of a 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band. That's what I call like a choice point. The price is likely to either go up or down at that point. And if the upper Bollinger Band is at an angle, the likelihood is you're going to continue on and slide along the edge of the Bollinger Band. I call that a slider. And then what I did once is I took 2 standard deviation and put a 1 standard deviation inside it, and as long as it stays in that outer lane, you just let the trade go. But when it comes to the middle lane, you can cut it. So I don't know if there's any juice in there.
So you're kind of bouncing up against the opposite problem that I have in this market. Is I don't consider myself a great trader, but I'm a great algorithms and pattern guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the reasons I started making some of these things available was so that I could get other people who were good traders to share that kind of stuff.
Get a technical, strategic feedback loop.
Exactly.
This worked, that didn't work. If I set this longer, it works better. And
well,
then,
I can run almost an infinite amount of experiments of what worked and didn't work. What I really want is intelligent rationale on why they think it didn't work.
Yes, that's hard to find in my experience. Oh, can you go test my system? Yeah, it didn't make money. Oh, it made money. Oh, well, thanks. I'm so happy for your help. Tell me it made money in range, but it lost money as it started to trend to the long side, but it seemed to trend okay to the short side. Tell me that kind of stuff. But that's hard to find.
Exactly.
That's hard.
Now, we ran into another interesting issue, which is I started making this available for a number of close contacts to use, and on a informal deal of a share of net profit. They take the risk, and I get a small piece of net profit. Right now, I still haven't got a clear answer from my attorney on whether I can actually charge in that way without a securities license.
I think if you're not taking the trade, you can license the software.
Yeah.
And a licensing fee, and that licensing fee is tied
based
on the estimated profit or the actual profit.
The actual profit.
That's
the only way that I found to keep everybody honest is we all win together or we don't.
Well, someone could still cheat you. They could take that code and run one account and say, "Hey, I made $5," and run another account. And they made $500 and they only paid you the $5 or whatever.
So
maybe you don't
my
trust
experience with big customers, and I might be wrong with this group, but big customers normally never do that. And I'm only interested in working with people that can afford to risk a meaningful amount of money. Those people always say, "Run faster. Here's more money. Why can't you go faster?" I'm saying I haven't ever been not paid for work, because it does happen, but it's the statistical rarity.
Yeah. And if you're working with people you don't trust, well, how much, that's not a good way to be, in my opinion. My goal is I want to build a future where I have financial comfort and I'm working with the greatest people and we all like each other. I know there's going to be conflicts stuff like that. But as minimal as possible is what I want. You know, have a comfortable life.
Yep. Yep. And I'd love to just work on this full time and never write another line for an hourly fee. We're not there yet.
Yeah. If I were given the input, I'd say apply some of your magic to Bollinger Bands, and the outer band and the price and the ratio up and down, and what's the inertia heading up or down to the outer bands, and I don't know. There was a point.
I'll take another look at them. My wife really loves Bollinger Bands.
And put Bollingers with Bollingers. You can change the time frames, and it becomes like a snake within a snake. And in a way, you get a multi-time frame look at the market from a single outlay of a spread of Bollinger Bands.
Well, I'll take a deeper look at it. So, did anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, Sad had a couple of comments about your lawyer bit. He was saying that you're only licensing it, and you are the one responsible for taking the trade.
No, I never want to touch their money, and I never see their trade until they send me a copy of their monthly statement.
Anybody else got any comments for either Joe or Steve? Nope. That was really good, Joe.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Right, so I guess I should give the string back then?
Oh, we can have you. I'm not doing anything on my end, so your pretty charts are better than a plain old Word document. Everybody's saying Joe rocks. Thanks, Joe. Amazing system. Anybody?
Hey, so let me put in a plug. I have a blog called baysanalytics.com.
If you want to type that up in the chat, Joe.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get it to expand so I can do that.
And do you want to talk about your situation as well, Steve?
In what way?
Well, about your how you're planning to bring in potential new traders at all, or do you want to mention that?
I have a few slots open for traders and stuff. The main thing is that I'm kind of doing it off of people that I've known, I like, and trust.
Oh, okay.
But I'm still, I'm not. I'm also drawn to people that have some plan to do some give back, or are doing some give back. Make the world a better place.
Yeah.
It goes back to getting the idea and the dream, and then I don't know. Want to make the world a better place. I mean, the idea that I'd be like one of the Koch brothers, not to get too political, and I'd make another Koch brothers. I'd rather not win. So anyway,
Just waiting for Joe's blog here.
Yeah, so just wanted to show you guys a few of these things. There's some fairly extensive write-ups in. Let me get to the article index in the technical. No, sorry.
It's Bayes Analytic, right?
Yep, that's baysanalytics.com. And when you get down to this trading research area, there's some things you guys may find interesting. Here's a documentation of another concept I just haven't got around to making the MicroStrategy on. There's code for downloading Forex and bars and tick data. There's also some articles that found some things, for example, on certain stock symbols. Buying on a Tuesday morning gives you a 73% win rate through almost a 3-year period.
Yeah.
And so and there's a explanation of how to go about building a K&N ensemble engine for trading, which is kind of the halfway between what I showed you today and the much more sophisticated statistical engines. And so if you read them, great. If you send me your ideas for articles that you think I should have written and haven't, that's even better.
Well, I just put your URL up there, so hopefully people will take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's a hard one to spell. I got it on my computer now, but
BayesAnalytic.com.
What did we say about me being a better engineer than marketer?
mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm probably a better marketer than an engineer. It just, it's just comes natural to me, just like it comes natural to you. The vice versa.
Is there anybody else got any questions for either Joe or Steve? If not, we're perfectly coming up to an hour and a half. That's our average for these sort of events. Anybody? Say it's a thanks a lot, guys.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you
for doing all the work. To
oh, no problem.
Together, and I like these. It's always interesting to get different views of what's going on.
Well, I'll be doing more of these. I'll be doing one probably next week.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll be continuing it, rolling along as I did it weekly up until July or early August. So everyone's saying thanks. From Sid said thank you. Adam says thanks. So I gotta say thanks to you, Joe and Steve, for doing that.
Okay.
That was awesome. So I'm recording it, so hopefully I'll get it up on YouTube. Is it okay to do as well, Joe?
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't show you anything that I haven't showed to dozens others.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's all good.
Yeah, just so as long as we're clear that I actually have not accepted the commission from anybody until the attorney sends me the okay. If he doesn't give me the okay, I'm just going to let him have the software to go with and play and use.
Okay.
So that we don't get myself thrown in jail.
No, I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I have a similar thing. It's like, what can you do, can't do? I've had my head down and doing it. Then you come up, and then there's a whole nother. You can make mistakes in investing and become in California, if you invest for someone that's older and you lose money, for example, and then they can get you for elder abuse. Well, it's funny until you end up in jail.
It sounds like France.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I'm doing here is you see this blue button right there?
Yeah.
That's the thing that turns out live to let it trade. I never press that blue button for anybody.
Yeah. I'm learning some of the...
I think that makes a technical line where you become more legally responsible.
Right. Well, that, and I also only send them samples of these parameter settings and disclaim it everywhere that they got to come up with their own set. But
Yeah.
that's for multiple reasons. One, if they use my set, they'll be competing with me.
Right.
Well, the market's big enough that you could do your thing and they could do. It sounds like they got much bigger feet in the market than you do.
Well, absolutely. But if you got enough people trading with identical parameters, then you'll drive the price points because you'll all enter at the same time. Mm-hmm. If you just change a few of these parameters a little bit, then one guy will be entering 15 minutes later than the other guy, and they won't conflict as soon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, I'm not trading anywhere near enough money for that to matter right yet. So
no, that's a problem that you want to have.
Yeah.
Right?
Because that problem means that you're trading. You're worried that your entry into the market's going to move the market, and that's the trouble the big guys have. You're going to move $1 billion. That's why the market moves up and down.
You know what I think I've noticed though is, especially in the Forex, is the other guys' bots are really good, and so it's not so much I'm moving the market as I'm attempting a bot.
Well, probably some truth to that. There's a lot of bots out there. There's some humans and banks and and then just the corporations have got to move their money. They're in there. Sometimes you just got to quarterly reports, got to get that money back, or whatever reason they got to get it back. and they don't have the time to wait or the interest. But there are like services that, if a corporation wants to move from from euro to the dollar, they'll sit on it and manage it and try to get the best deal, time the market for them.
Steve, did you see the question on your blog?
I don't. I actually do, but I don't do much with it. But it's Forex. Let me see if I can find it.
If you just put it in the chat box.
Yeah, I don't go to it enough to.
I think everyone has a blog now, don't they?
I'm not sure that everybody thinks I'm that interesting. But I don't know.
You'd be surprised.
I get probably 100 ping emails when I misspell something well. Good. It's funny, for a great article you get 5 kudos, and for a misspelling you get 100 responses.
Well, that means that maybe 100 at least read it.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. It's a daily event I deal with all the time. I just turn around and admit I'm the world's worst speller.
Yeah, I've made that admission, and then they pester you for 4 days to fix it.
Oh, I never get that. I guess I'm lucky. Do you want to?
I'm trying to go to my blog, but it says bad gateway, so I don't know if I've been bumped off or.
Well,
I don't use any bad language. I don't think.
no.
Well, guys, I have to go.
Yeah.
If nobody has any more questions, I have to go pick up a prescription for my wife.
Well, thanks for your input.
Yeah.
It's good.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for sharing the time.
No problem. We'll do another one next week.
Sounds good.
Okay, man. Thanks again. Might as well cut it off now, I guess, Steve.
Yeah, I'm not able to get my blog to come up. I'm not sure if it exists.
Okay, no problem. But if anybody's got any questions, just pipe them through me, and I'll get them out to you. And then, or you're part of my Facebook group, aren't you?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, why don't I put up? I'll make myself the presenter again.
Facebook, Skype, Meetup. I know you a couple different ways, I think.
Yeah, hang on here. Let me just. Can you guys see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Agile Project.
Okay, cool. If anybody doesn't know, let me just log into Facebook and I'll put my info on the Facebook group. So that's why I have the Facebook group, so I have people communicating with each other. So give me a second here and I'll put that URL in there. Just for anybody who's new, I've got my Facebook group page, and then I just put that in the URL on the chat box, and then there is the last one is the Facebook group. Yeah, here I'll put that in, and yeah, you can reach through me through that. And if you're part of the group, Steve, people can reach out to you there.
Okay.
Didn't you come to me through a meetup group?
Yeah, I'm on the meetups as well. I got 3 meetup groups. Just that's why most of the people are through meetup.
Oh, okay, great. Because that's where I'll look for your next meetings.
Yeah, it's either Facebook or meetup. Doesn't really matter. They're all the same events.
Okay, cool.
All right. So, does anybody have any further questions for myself or Steve? Otherwise, we'll just wrap her up. But if not, we thank you guys for coming out, and thanks Joe and Steve for everything. Anybody? No? If not, we'll just give her a wrap.
Yeah, just persistence. Keep at it.
Yeah, we'll come up to 6 years at my end in January.
Yeah.
So, anybody have anything? No? If not, we'll just say goodnight, and hopefully I'll see you early next week.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, thanks again, Steve. And if not, I'll have a good night, everybody. And I'll talk to you later. And I'll have this hopefully up on the YouTube the next day. Hopefully tonight, maybe even.
All right.
All right, guys. I want to say goodnight. All right, have a good one, eh?
Mhm.
See you.
Bye.
All right. Yeah. Eh?
Get the old Canadian in there.
I can't remember her voice. It's part of my DNA now. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Thanks again, Steve.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye.